Hey everybody, Josh with you here again today. We're going to go ahead and talk about the Japanese Type 38 Arisaka 6.5 by 50 millimeter battle rifle, bolt action rifle. This one is sure as hell not a carbine. This one has I've already forgotten how long the barrel is. The overall gun is 51 inches long. It has a 30 plus inch long barrel. This is not a sniper rifle. It's about 30 and a half to 31 inches. There's a lot of interesting factors involved on this gun. It's a copy of, and technically it was originally made for the Japanese by the Italians. Carcano was the rifle, manufacturer, the gunsmith. Anyways, the Carcano style rifle came from Italy, and this is what that gun is modeled after. Obviously, this one is of Japanese manufacture, or at least appears to be. All of the stampings and everything are in Japanese, except for the serial number. And it actually doesn't tell you anything, except for in the Japanese here, of even what model it is. So originally, I just looked up which rifles used the 6.5 millimeter. I measured the bore diameter, and then I looked up the symbols, and bam. It's 5-shot capacity, bolt action. The bolt is removed. It's right here. It's pretty normal bolt, but I still wouldn't tear it apart unless you had to. Take it to a gunsmith if you really want to shoot one of these things and your bolt's giving you problems. It's unlikely that they would. I mean, it collects a lot of rust and crap, but aside from the little spring inside, the firing pin spring failing, which is the only problem I've ever seen happen to a bolt that you'd have to tear it apart for. Or I guess the extractor, yeah, that could be as well. But anyways, take it to a gunsmith. You really don't want to screw up something like this. I mean, yeah, it's a Japanese rifle, but it's still a piece of history. To take the bolt out, you just pull the little lever on the back, pops right out, pull it out the back, of course. That is technically the way you're supposed to clean it. You clean it from the breech to the muzzle, going with the riflings and all that jazz. And you better find a really long cleaning rod, just so you know. Has tangent sights. When you're shooting at normal distances, which I guess would be between 100 to 200 yards, you would use the regular system here. When you're shooting further than that, you would use this system here. It's measured in, I think, increments of 2 up to 24. I don't have any idea what that really means, but it's how you adjust your elevation with the sights. To be honest, in my opinion, this is kind of an ugly rifle. Obviously, the Italians were making it and they thought it looked nice the way they had it, but it's not my preference. It does have good ergonomics. I mean, for being a big, goofy-looking, clunky rifle, it has good ergonomics. This one hasn't been fired in quite a long time. If you needed to get the magazine out, you just go ahead and push this little button on the bottom, and the magazine comes flying out at you. Of course, it's just a spring, a floor plate, and the follower on top. And it's actually a pain in the ass to get it back in. There it went. The other 2 times I didn't have to push the button again. This time I did. Whatever. It has a fairly interesting style stock. You've got your rear portion, which is one piece, and it goes up to here, and we've got a couple of more pieces here. You can tell this is not one piece of wood. The top end of the foregrip, I guess, actually comes right off fairly easily. It's covered by the sight, and the sling, which doesn't swivel, whatever you call that, is actually spring-loaded. Just pop it off like so. You work that off. There's another one on the end of the rifle. Barrel band, pop that off. You're going to take out these 3 screws, and the gun comes apart pretty easily. And it's actually really not that big of a danger for the, I guess you call it the firing assembly. Really all it is the trigger and the little internal pieces there. They're pretty safe. They don't usually blow out at you. But there's really no reason to tear it apart. Not to mention by pointing a screwdriver at it and taking the parts off it, you're just taking away from the value of it. So, leave it alone. It's a piece of history. To give you an idea of this compared to, like, say, a 30-06 rifle, the 30-06 weighed a similar amount, but it only had a 22-inch barrel, and of course it was the M1903, and by World War II I think it was the A3 and A4, which were actually a pretty sad representation of the previous 1903 rifles. They're not even really hardly collectible, by the way, the later ones. However, the latter did have peep sights, which you'll find on most modern US guns and some others. I personally despise peep sights, so I'd say this has superior sights. The older ones did actually have flip-up sights of some sort. I think they were just iron sights. And of course they had sniper scopes and different crap they put on them. There is also a sniper version of this too, but anyways, still comparing it with the 30-06. And it fires a far inferior round. This fires a 6.5 by 50 millimeter cartridge. And it only holds 5 in the magazine. And I think it's a 120 grain bullet at 2,600 feet per second. So it's barely high power. Of course, 6.5 millimeter. It's technically a varmint round if you're an American, but anyways. Those of us in the US, we'd like to shoot bigger bullets than that usually. With the 30-06, it's 7.62 by 63 millimeter. That thing is about 50 to 54,000 psi on average. And of course the hunting loads probably push that a little bit. And you can get them up to 250 grains, I believe. I know I've seen 220s, and I'm sure you can get 30-06 bullets that are heavier, because they make them for 300 Win Mag, which is of course still a 7.62 cartridge. However, this is one of the strongest receivers that was around during World War II. And I don't know why, because there was nothing wrong with the Russian rifles they had. What were they called? The Mosin Nagant. In fact, the cartridge is better too. Anyways, these rifles were used in a lot of Russian battles. So it's kind of interesting, but I guess, you know, you get whatever gun you can get and you shoot it, and if you're lucky, you hit the other guy. That's what it pretty much comes down to. I don't know if I said this before, but I'm not reviewing this gun. I'm just giving you some idea about it, a little bit of history about it, and told you how to disassemble it. I've disassembled this. I don't want to do it again. It's a, it's a piece of history. It's a relic. You don't have to. Don't mess with it. Don't start jabbing a screwdriver at it or anything like that. And also, if you're collecting them, you don't want to knock off any more of the rust than you have to, because the collectors actually like that. I did clean the barrel, because nobody's going to look in the barrel and say, oh my god, where did my rust go? Unless it's for a good reason. This was Josh. We looked at the Japanese Type 38 Arisaka rifle. It's a copy of the Carcano rifle. So I would imagine, though I've never actually handled another Carcano, they would disassemble the same way. It's usually like that. You know, you get a Mauser knockoff, it disassembles like a Mauser. Pretty much all bolt actions disassemble like this, aside from the weird stock. This is Josh, and we're signing out.